Okay, guys, today's role analysis is with my old friend Terry. We probably trained together for almost 20 years, so that's kind of cool. We start here in the knee cut position, which is standard, and I use that opportunity to get my head on the inner pocket. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to force him to a half butterfly, and I'm trying to get him to flare his elbow. And when he does, I melt forward. You see how I drive his elbow up towards his head? And that kind of forces him into this over grip. He tries to re-enter, but my body's so far forward that when he tries to elevate me with his hook, I can actually sprawl through it. Now, Terry definitely won't give up a pass, and that's not what I'm expecting, but I just want to try to wear him down a little bit. So it might take me 8-10 pass attempts. And you see I pummel my foot inside there between his legs, trying to set up a knee cut on the opposite side, but he's pretty savvy to my tricks, so I know that's not going to happen. But again, it's just about an endless number of combinations. When he holds my ankle like this and I drop my shin on his thigh, his own thigh actually starts to wear down the grip on my ankle. So that's something I'll do a lot. You can see right here, I post on my hands, I walk the weight back, and again, I start to cut sideways, and I drop to my knee, which collapses his leg, and that's how he ends up letting go of the grip. So I use his leg to break the grip, and then I cut around the corner. He turtles again. So I think that was pass attempt number 2, and this time I got a little bit deeper, and I get into this tripod pass position. Pretty decent underhook, but you can see there's some space underneath. Now, this early on, Terry doesn't want to concede a bad position where I can kind of wear him out. But in this exchange, he's going to be using up a lot of energy. You see how he's in a very straight position? So even though I pry his thighs open, I flare my knees, he actually ends up blocking my bottom foot. So I go back to that tripod position. And when he kind of off balances me, look what I do. I always respect the post first. So here, when he starts to shuck me to my right towards the camera, I post on the floor, and then I shoot back over the top. So I'm never in a rush to pass. I really want to take my time and secure, and I like to use my head and shoulder position to really wear my partner out. As we start again, I try to pursue that collar. I think we were getting out of bounds, and he kind of gets pretty aggressive or proactive, I would say, here, sitting up on his knees. He does have a bit of a judo background, so he'll be pretty smart and dominant and aggressive with those grips, and I definitely want to respect that, and that's why I cut a lot of angles with Terry. I notice here the opening is to his left, which is my right. So I try to use my bicep to seal his leg position, and then I hop around. And that's kind of how I attempt to pass Terry throughout this entire roll. Try to cut and circle once I pin him. And I acknowledge that the first several passes won't work, but they'll just take me 1 inch closer, and hopefully I can start to tire him out. And you can see I'm always in this kind of tripod position, carrying my weight through my partner. So I always want him carrying my weight. I didn't have a great underhook, so I step back into the saddle position, threaten some kind of knee bar leg attack, and then I pummel back. Again, he turtles, but this time you see I get a little bit closer. So I find the key with a guy like Terry is that I don't let my almost passes discourage me. I always want to keep cooking him, and I understand that it's not going to be 2 minutes or even 4 minutes to pass a guy like Terry. I kind of take his back here, but I'm pretty convinced that he's going to get out shortly. So yes, I do want to finish, but I'm also pretty smart with my energy. You're going to see here something I do quite a bit. And what that is I'm always trying to throw my leg or my heel over his forearm to trap it. And when he slips out his other arm, I feel it escaping, elbow digging, I start to attack that elbow, and he has to respect that, and that's when I get a deep lapel feed. So now I have an isolation of his bottom arm as well as the neck, and that's what allows me to re-dig and re-pummel my leg over to trap. Now from the closed guard position here, he escaped the back, which is great, but my shin is inside. And I know that pretty standard triangle entry from here can be difficult, so I feed his lapel, and when I press the lapel up, the weight comes off his hand, and that's how I'm able to enter the triangle. So look at that again. I take the collar out across his back, I flip the grip, and I press my heel in between my palm and his rib, and that elevates his arm. And now it's so light that it's easier to tuck in, and I take my right leg and I throw it over and I cross my ankles. I know his arm is on the other side, but I'm not worried about that. I'm just trying to move 1 step closer to my triangle. He stacks forward and he tries to dig his knee in, and I just go to the omoplata. Actually, in retrospect, there's an opportunity for me to hook my foot under his ankle, but I didn't take it. I just must have missed it, and I felt that he was defending well, so I used the sweep to come up, and immediately I turned towards him. I stuffed that knee shield leg. You see how I'm grabbing the end of his pant leg? That draws his knee away from his chest, which creates the opening for me to connect my shoulder and take my underhook. This is actually something I learned from watching Kainan Duarte. A lot of the Atos guys actually do that to defeat the knee shield. As he comes back in, I secure a Kimura grip, and it actually backfires. He ends up on top, and I managed to re-secure my Kimura grip. It's really weak, and I remember thinking, oh man, I kind of screwed up here, and I just think that Terry might have been a little bit fatigued here, and I was able to get away with a recovery. I use that to chase the back, and again, he's blocking my top and bottom hook. As he rotates away, what seems to me a viable option is to secure a Kimura grip, and due to his positioning, I actually lose it, and I fall to my hip. As we restart, he comes up a little bit, so I punch an underhook around his leg, and he'll use his left underhook here to try to threaten and establish a knee cut position. So if you check it out, he secures his underhook here, and he's trying to drive me back to his side, which is his right, where his hand is posting. And all I do is I block his thigh and I insert my butterfly hook. And that actually gives me quite a bit of leverage, and it negates quite a bit of his passing position, as well as allows me to switch to the offensive. I use my head inside of his neck to block, and I just use it to reset the position from a very threatening position that he had originally. Now, again, I'm feeding this lapel grip. Maybe I'm going to go for a choke, but it's not super easy to access from there. But I just like to have multiple threats going on so that my partner has to worry about quite a few things. As I elevate him here with one butterfly hook, he's doing a good job keeping his weight back not to give me the sweep. And there, when he sits back, his arm is light, which means I can tuck it in and I can sweep him over, which is exactly what happens here. I press into the ground, and it's kind of one of my favorite sweeps. Just to walk you through it, I want the belt. I see that it's not on, so I actually managed to reach the pants, which is a little bit easier because I have long legs. I tuck my leg flat to the ground, I pull my knee in to load the weight, and I tip him over his head and shoulder, not in a way where he's weight bearing, so it's safe. And because he's wrapping my leg, almost sitting up on a single leg or giving me that vibe, I walk him back towards the center. Now, from here, I don't have an underhook yet, and I'm just trying to either weave my knee in, or here I sense a weird opportunity where I can actually stretch his leg, lengthen his body to put into a weaker position, and creep into a mount. You'll notice I'm still pretty low in the mount, and I try to put some forward pressure, and here he creates a little bit of space, almost enters a single leg X, but I'm able to sink my weight back down. As we shift back to the center, I take this cross collar grip, which is a nice frame, but also sets me up for choking threats. And it's a similar position where I start to threaten a loop choke. I always like to attack multiple things. And I try to sweep him, but he actually pulls his hand out. And here I kind of force it a little bit more. I elevate him. And once he's up, foot on the hip, I'm able to tip him over. So whenever someone posts on their hand like that, as I drive into the floor and I elevate, you see he posts on his hand here to stop. And I pop up his hips and I put a foot on his hip, and I actually take him over and beyond his hand. So what happens is the hand becomes so heavy that it becomes immobile. And a posting limb that can't move well is not super useful as a posting limb. And that's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed.